Moving camera. Good job. You've had a new job?
Sure or no? Are we running?
Yeah. For a couple of minutes.
What about mine? I didn't have my makeup done. Okay. Yeah, I think we could just start. I'll push the recordometron. And we're on. Okay, so second part. The goal here now is understanding creativity insofar as we can understand creativity. Get some tools for being creative, and hopefully dispel some of the misconceptions concerning creativity. And then we can, I hope, also I should have put on there, you're supposed to go and be creative. And all of you back home or in the skies or wherever you are, you must also go and be creative when we are creative, even though the recording stops. We're watching it. Okay. I'm going to put out a model here soon, but I'm going to put in a Dead Poets Society disclaimer. Has anybody seen Dead Poets Society? Nobody's seen Dead Poets Society. I'm sad now. This is a fantastic movie with Robin Williams, where he is a he's a lecturer that he becomes loved and respected by his students. Something I also aspire to be one day, but you know, it's a bit way off. But anyway, there's a model in that movie, you see, where the greatness of the poem is measured on two axes, and that's in their course book. And the first thing Robin Williams says about it, it's excrement. And it tells all the students to tear it out of their book, and in fact tear out the whole chapter because it's crap. In fact, the whole book is crap. Now we're just going to read poetry, and that's what it's all about. Now I'm going to do the opposite of him, so you're probably going to hate me instead of love me. I don't know how this works, but I have my own sort of measuring something that's a bit fuzzy on two axes. I made this up myself, so there's not going to be any fantastic references for it, but just so you can accept it or discard it at your leisure. But I find it is a good way of getting your head around what ideas need to be good. So what is a good idea? And okay, so I have two axes. I have quality of the idea, and I have the quantity of the idea. Now quantity, that's a very easy to quantify, quantifiable metric, right? Now, whereas quality is a bit more fuzzy. Now I'm going to show you what I think when it comes to quantity. Because we're going to, this is a bit focused on around games or interactive software. A lot of the slides are, because that's my background, that's what I've been working with. But you're free to challenge me on that, to say, how does this even apply to some of the ideas that I have? You can do that. But also because, also games and movies are fun. It likes, entertainment should be fun to some extent. So that's why a lot of these examples will be from that realm. But I do still think that it has applications beyond that. So, okay, back to the scale. Start here with a 10-minute sample. Then it goes up to more or less of a representative experience to a full game, and then a 7-part epic. That could be like a movie like Harry Potter. And as you can see, this is a logarithmic scale. Right? The distance between 10-minute sample and halfway to a representative experience is very different from here to here, from here to there, right? So we have a logarithmic scale. Oh, you're so late. How can you do that to me on my first day? I feel bad now. Okay. But anyway, I'm talking about ideas, and this is my homegrown. I hesitate to call it theory. Known as a hypothesis. It's more of a model, homegrown model for understanding quality of ideas. Okay. And now is something. How do we measure quality? Anybody? Anybody has an idea? Well, if you want to say something is better than something else.
If it does what it is supposed to do, and it doesn't cost us other products.
So quality is, yeah, if it's cheap. Huh? Sure. But in this sense, if I had the quality of an idea, how do we say, well, what's a bad idea? If it's down here, your idea is super crap. What characterizes an idea that is not so good?
But there can be two problems. One, that it doesn't function as it's supposed, and second, even if it solves the problem, the people that is using it cannot really interact with it or cannot really use it.
So what you're saying is you can't use it, or it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't work. How do we know it works if it's just an idea? We don't. That's why, on this scale, I put this. An idea that's in your head is a crap idea. It's the worst kind of idea you have. Ideas that are in your head are useless. Because ideas in your head are always perfect. You don't see the holes. You don't see what's wrong with your idea if it's just in your head. Now, the moment you start writing it down, show it to somebody else, and they say, hey, that doesn't make any sense. Or this algorithm is wrong, or couldn't you do that with some other material? Then you start exposing it, and okay, yeah, there's some problems with it. You see the holes. You make it, the moment you realize an idea somewhat, it becomes better, because then we can see what are the problems with that idea, what are the holes, and how can we fill them. If you may implement an idea, if you make something, okay, I have this idea for this movie, but okay, let's play out a scene. Okay, let's play out a scene with the costumes, and I'll try to be the character, and maybe get a real actor to do it. Now we're working. It's getting better. Now it's implemented. Okay, let's make it and let's test it. Let's somebody else see what we made and come with some feedback. That's a much better idea. Everybody can see that now you're onto something. It's not there, but you're onto something. Once you've taken an idea and you've documented it, you've implemented it, you've tested it, and you've polished it. You take it from everybody here. Everybody here said, almost everybody anyway, said you're familiar with agile and lean methodologies, and iteration is a big part of that. That's what iteration does for you. You make one piece in your head, and then you document that, and you test it. You make something, you test it. You make something, you test it. Expose it to people, to other people's creative filters, and critical filters, and then, in the end, you have a great idea. The best idea is something that has been made, and somebody has put it out in the market, and everybody can see it's a fantastic idea. Let's take an example. Let's take an example of the iPhone. The iPhone. So we have a guy who goes out and says, I'm going to make a phone. And I'm going to take away all the things that people say they want on this phone. I'm going to take away the keyboard that the pro users use. I'm going to have it has much lower specs than the best phones out there. It's going to have a worse camera. You know the apps you can get for your Nokia? Well, you can get those in our store, but it has to be through our store, and you have to pay for them now. Now, if Steve Jobs was going out and saying that, you were just going to laugh. That doesn't make any sense. And the fact is, a lot of people in the industry did laugh at him. But he made it anyway. And the innovation was not making a better phone, it was making a phone that was better for people, that more people could use. And the people who were most focused on functionalities, people who were very good and used their phone all the time, this wasn't the phone for them. This was a phone for everybody else. And very quickly, and the moment, you can still argue, the moment when Jobs is standing there on the keynote with his, with the new phone in his hand, you can still say, it's gonna flop. But the moment you're here, when you implemented, you tested, you put it into the market, you cannot argue that it was a good idea. But a good idea has to be implemented. You have to do something with your idea. It has to come out of your head. If you make, a lot of people stay here. They make ideas, they work on the quantity scale. So you have a lot of stuff, you make a lot of documentation. Now, you see, it's not here, right? It's just not complete documentation. It doesn't say everything there is about the product. It just outlines and what's interesting and what you think is fun. And you can make a lot of this. I've seen a lot of game design documents. Any of you made a game design document ever? Yeah, good. And a game design document, that often falls into this category. A lot of people want to make games, but they don't have the money, the contacts, and the skill to make a game. But they have lots of good ideas. So they make more documentation, more ideas, talk more with their friends about how cool this game is going to be. And they stay down here. But the quality, so the quantity goes up, but the quality stays the same. And the problem is, this is worthless. However, put that effort in here on making a 10-minute sample of something that you have taken out of your head, you've documented it, you've put it in, you made a prototype. That prototype sucked. It was terrible. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, but you fixed it. You tested that, and you fixed it again, and you polished it. Then you have a product that is essential if you want to get funding, if you want to have more people interested, if you want to get those couple of persons who has the competence that you're missing to make it, exceed everybody's expectations. The things that that down the line over here, you're going to need those people. This is essential to attracting those people, whether it's in terms of money, in terms of skills, or in terms of just getting a network that people are aware of your product. Trendsetters, people who shape how the community thinks about your product. So that is what I'll just go and be very concrete. From your prototype, this is what we're looking for. Something, this can be, it doesn't even, your prototype is not going to come all the way up there, but it should be somewhere around here. You should have tested it, you should have exposed it to people. But it doesn't have to be much. It just has to be something that everybody can go and, whoa, that's interesting. Okay? And there's a saying, 1,000,000 monkeys on 1,000,000 typewriters will eventually write Hamlet. And I thought this comic here was a bit funny. From an evolutionary standpoint, that's already happened. This isn't a theory, that's how it is. You're just describing things. But, so, the thing is, what those monkeys will do, though, is they're going to write a billion, trillion pages on those millions of typewriters. And nobody's going to want to sift through those millions and billions of pages to find Hamlet. What you need is 3 wonderfully written pages. The first 3 pages of Hamlet. First 3 pages of any Shakespeare thing just grabs you. You can take something, it was the worst of times, it was the best of times. You can take just the opening paragraphs that you've polished, you've worked with, if you can remember the books or the movies or the games that you like best, probably within the first 10 minutes you engaged with them are fantastic. The best programs, the best consumer software you've used, you probably really quickly got into understanding how it is. Take the OS of the iPhone again. You know, you're not going to have a hierarchy. You're not going to have folders. Everything's just going to be out there on the desktop. That sounds crazy. Until you realize that most people will just see a thing and they want to interact with it and they're going to push it and it happens. It's super easy. If you're a very competent consumer, you want to organize things. You can find, you understand how the engineers are thinking. And you know that to find the Wi-Fi settings, you need to go under settings, connectivity, Wi-Fi, detailed Wi-Fi settings. If you're my grandmother, you have no idea. You just go, and she doesn't even touch the thing. Throws it away. If there's a symbol and you say, there's your Wi-Fi. If it says Wi-Fi underneath, so push that, and it'll work. So, 3 wonderfully written pages in this context of making something. It can be pages, or it could be a great software that just works. An interface that just, I get it. I push the button, things happen. It's easy to evaluate. Everybody can say, this is great. This is a good idea. And it leaves you, if there are pages, it leaves you wanting more. You read through the first couple of pages of your favorite novel, and then, oh, but what's the rest of it? I want to read more. That's a much, much easier way for somebody to evaluate, understand, and get a craving for your product than it is if you just here's all my ideas for. Can you imagine R.R. Martin with all his ideas for Westeros, and just taking those notes that he accumulated over decades and just throwing them in a real barrel, and here, this is my work. It's not finished yet. I have to put the details. This is the world, and these are some of the characters. Maybe some of them will die. I'm not sure. I think there's going to be somebody's going to get a head chopped off in the end of first season. I'm sure of that. But just dig through it. See if you like it. Who would like that? Nobody would like that. It's like, oh, okay, Cersei. Oh, she's having sex with her brother. What the fuck kind of pervert are you, man? Nobody is going to engage with that because it's the packaging and the meeting out that get people hooked. So, and there's another aspect to it, which is sort of implicit in my quality measurement, and that is, but okay, I've just got 7 volumes of half-baked ideas, flat character, plot holes, like you would have when you're planning some kind of huge epic, right? That is unreadable. And the thing is that quantity requires only time. You don't have to be good to write 7 volumes of stuff, of fantasy with dragons and girls with long white hair and two-handed swords. You have to be barely competent at writing to write that. That's the only skill you need. And I've had some students in my time who were there, but that's not where you want to be. Quality, on the other hand, requires skills and techniques, and a wide range of skills and techniques. How do you take something and document it? How do you take something and implement it? Who do you need help from to test what you've made? How do you test this particular piece of thing? What's the most important thing? Lots of skills, lots of technique, lots of knowledge you need to have to be able to do that. On this, when I've used this slide before for some bachelor students and you'll learn some of those techniques here. I'm not going to put that in here. You are master students. You should know a lot of these techniques already. And if you don't know them, you should be able to go out and find them. This is absolutely essential for a master's student to be able to find the knowledge you do not already have. Thing is, I am not a perfect lecturer. My knowledge of this topic is okay. I have a lot of knowledge about tangential things. The most important thing I can do for you here is just to show you the way, or one possible way, of making better products, taking things you already know how to make and making them a little better together. Because the most important resource you have here, and you guys too, is each other. So you need to communicate. You're on the same level here. You know what kind of challenges you have. You can understand the challenges. Whereas I'm sort of a bit off here to the side, doing something similar, but not quite. And I've had a lot of the challenges you have, but many years ago, right? And you're also different, but I'm not going to teach you. It's not here. I'm not going to teach you the techniques. I'm going to teach you some things. Some of the skills and techniques are needed to improve the quality is leveraging knowledge you already have, but in a better and more effective way. So some of which you have, and others which you'll have to learn. So I'm going to talk now a bit more about creativity, getting ideas. And again, I'm illustrating with a comic, Calvin and Hobbes. This is one of the great and most interesting comics, I think, ever made. Only thing is, Bill Watterson, who makes this, is a bit of a recluse, so you may not be familiar with it. Who is familiar with Calvin and Hobbes? Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that's good. A lot of you. That's great. But I think, yeah, a lot of my work here, well, you see Calvin here, he is waiting for his idea to come in last-minute panic. I don't have that sort of, I don't think that's my problem. My problem is more that I have so many ideas, and then I have to choose one. That's the last-minute panic. Having to commit to one, that's also a very important skill. Donald Norman. Anybody don't know Donald Norman? Good. Could you explain who Donald Norman is?
He's really known in interaction design because he developed the ideas of people how to use products or how to engage with products. And I think one of the best contributions of him is this idea of affordance, making people know how to use the stuff just by seeing it. What is his major was psychology, or I think he's not any kind of
yeah, but I think it's psychology. I'm not sure.
He specializes in the human mind, or he analyzes from a psychology perspective how people think or how they would like to use the products or engage with them.
He is, I think, the guru of usability, of human-computer interaction. He's one of the big names there. But he also has something to say about creativity. And he says that if you're under stress, that means focus. When you focus on things, which is why you have deadlines. But focus, that narrows your field of view. That means when you're stressed, you do the same thing again, but more forcefully. If you're stressed and your computer isn't working, you try the same commands again and again. And why isn't it working? And you're screaming, and in the end, you're pressing Control-Alt-Delete like there's no tomorrow. However, you want to be relaxed, then we get the creative solutions. Relaxed atmosphere where your mind is allowed to wander a bit, that's where we get creative solutions. So this is why we have deadlines, and this is why we're going to go on try to be creative in some other location in a moment. So so how do we get ideas? Okay, relaxed atmosphere. Where is that? Wherever we're relaxed. Could be on the bus to work. Sometimes you're not relaxed. If you're on the train to work and you're still typing up your presentation for your class, like I was this morning, you're not so creative. But you get the work done. In the shower, in the bed with your sweetheart. You might want to wait with writing down the particulars. The documentation stage, maybe you should hold it off for just a short while if that's where you get your idea. And what's the idea for? I think one of the problems I've seen a lot of times with potentially good ideas is that people say that, okay, I have this idea, and because I'm a programmer, it must be an idea for a software product. Or I'm a chef, which means that this idea that I have must be some kind of food. It must be, or at least maybe you could use it in a restaurant. Whereas maybe that idea is better used for something else. Could be a new technology, could it be a new experience? Is it a new delivery method or a revenue model? It doesn't have to be. Your great idea as a chef could be a fantastic new delivery method or revenue model for something else than food. Could be for software. Just because it doesn't work one place doesn't mean it doesn't work right. I'm going to go back. I'm going to use that thing. Or use that thing. I'm going to run back. It's a lot of ways back, to be honest. Because, oh, what I wanted. No. Sorry about that, people. There's that model again. Yes, remember this one? Because we had a discussion of a lunch. Because we, Moyus and Lagoon and me were sitting there eating lunch, and then we talked about vegetables. My meal didn't have any vegetables in it, just meatballs and mashed potatoes. Talked about vegetables, and then I commented, Marius, isn't it true that in Poland you have all these pickled vegetables? Oh yeah, we eat a lot of pickled vegetables. And I'm going to say, oh yeah, and pickled cauliflower. No, cauliflower? I've never seen that. Because his father, could you explain?
Yeah, my father's a gardener, and he used to make mixed pickles, so cauliflowers, onions, and broccoli, and all types of vegetables, just pickle them together, and that was great.
But Marius comes from a country where pickled vegetables is the thing. In Norway, pickled vegetables is like, it happens. What we had is something you can make in Norway with the technology. You have the technology and a totally viable product, and we totally have a process for making it. Pickled cauliflower. Only thing is, there's not a huge market for it. Is there a market for it? In Poland, where they love pickled vegetables, we're pushing it in here. Maybe there's an opportunity there. What? Doesn't have to be. Maybe it's just this stupid idea. People in Poland would never do cauliflower. For some reason, there's a cultural taboo on cauliflower. I don't know. But what happened was an innovation moment. Because we are different, we come together and ideas happen. We found some of these ripe areas for picking up ideas and just push them in one direction, one dimension. Didn't have to make up all of it. We're just taking something that already exists and seeing, hey, that could be a good idea. We could all agree that, yeah, there's a potential there. Yep.
Oh, yeah, I have seen that, especially in Norway, with something that I got in contact just when I just arrived to Scandinavia, which is the cheese slicer. That's something Norwegians are really proud of, and it's something that it makes a product that solves a problem, but I haven't seen it in other places. And it's just because for that you kind of need to use it with the right cheese. and
Yeah.
that right cheese is just made here and is popular here. So, okay, you have a good idea, but you cannot make it everywhere because people don't know how to use it. So you need to interact with the three circles, knowing the people, knowing the business, and knowing the technology that you're going to implement.
I have the exact same experience because, I mean, the Norwegian white and brown cheeses, which is the ones that we almost exclusively eat, so at least on a general basis, are very efficient to slice with a cheese slicer. But everything else, I mean, try it with blue cheese or the cheeses you have in Colombia. It doesn't work. It just crumbles. It's like feta cheese with this. Is what the hell? This is just stupid. So yeah, definitely. So it's a good idea in a certain market. And I'm trying to get back on track here. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. Now we're back to getting ideas. Or a new brand. I mean, even a brand new idea, a new brand identity. That's also innovation. That's also saying this product isn't for these people. It's for these people. Just saying that we're taking the same old product, just selling it to new people who might have liked it better, have better use for it. Seeing that, you know, this is just selling it in a different way. It's all kinds of innovation. And when do you get ideas? You get ideas when you go out and grab them. Because you can wait for inspiration like Calvin does, or you can try to get some techniques that will allow you to squeeze out some ideas. So basically, being creative on demand. And there's a guy called Edward de Bono. Anybody heard about Edward de Bono? No. Okay. Well, we have 6 hacks on the school, so somebody must have heard about Edward de Bono, and so that's good.
I think we had him in the game lab, so if you go up there.
Yeah, we should take a trip to the game lab. He says, creative thinking goes, it means going from what is to what can be. And Edward de Bono is very, what should I say? I wouldn't say he's opposed to traditional Western thinking. It's just that he says it's not useful when you're trying to think creatively. So traditional Western thinking from Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, that is an adversarial contest. It's one opinion over here, it's another opinion over here, and these opinions clash. And through this process, you take something that's sort of unclear, some idea we were not quite sure of, and hammer it down into something that's smaller, more concrete, and hopefully true. Through discussing, me and you say, okay, maybe you, Runa, you say, this course, I think it's just something you made up to get 5 study points. No, it's essential, says Runa. And then you provide arguments. And in the end, you come down to the truth, which may be closer to what you were claiming, or it could be closer to what Runa was claiming. But in the end, you've taken away all of the fuzzy stuff around it, right? All the doxa. Anybody know what that means? What that's the doxa is? Doxa is opinion. Doxa means it's Greek. It's Greek for opinion, for thoughts and things that you have that cannot be necessarily corroborated, that cannot be, you don't have evidence for. So you take away the doxa that surrounds this thing by using the adversarial method, thinking, as Edward de Bono says, against each other. We're opposing each other. We're taking away all of this ideas and opinion, and we're getting it down to knowledge or episteme. which is incidentally what the root of the word epistemology, which is the knowledge of what we can know, the science of what we can know. So we're trying to do that. This is not creative. This is reductive. This does not create new knowledge. It just removes things that weren't knowledge in the first place, or wrong, what we thought was knowledge but was in fact wrong. So this is a very effective way of finding truth, but it's not a very effective way of making something new, because this is asking what is, and creativity is asking what can be. It's taking that thing, there's some core truth in there, but we're trying to going out here. We're going from this thing that is to another thing that is. And that movement cannot be made efficiently with this process. Okay, so what do we do? We're thinking wrong. This is a major sort of issue. I think we were again talking about this in this morning, where people see things in a different way. People think differently. You can see the same thing and you think differently. If I am a mechanical engineer, I'll have some idea to what this is. I'm not a mechanical engineer, so I have no idea what this is. It's a thing about. However, I have worked as an artist, so what I can see is I can see the surfaces. I can see how the colors change in the light. I can see there's the specks of what I suspect is rust. There's some impurities in here. If I'm a businessman, I can have a look and see, oh, it's made in Norway. It's a Norwegian product. How can we market that? He sees maybe an opportunity for selling something. Is this viable? Is it more, it's better than if it was produced in China? Can we outsource some parts of this construction? See something else. If you're different, come together, finding new ideas. And that's part of what Edward de Bono wants us to do, to move away from the argument over here, from thinking against each other, towards what he calls parallel thinking, which is thinking with each other. So we're thinking in the same direction. So instead of one person thinking here, one person thinking in that direction, we're both thinking in this direction. Well, that's not going to get us there, is it? It's going to get us here. But what we do is we think in the same direction, but alternating directions. First, okay? So first we think of what's good with this product, both of us. And then we think what's wrong with this product, both of us. We go for examples. He has developed a similar, we call it a framework, which he called the 6 hats. First time I heard of the 6 hats was in my bachelor in digital culture, and I thought it was pretty silly. Put these hats on, and you're supposed to help you think. Sounds like something out of Donald Duck. Gyro Gearloose puts on his thinking hat, and then he gets his fantastic ideas. And to be honest, I think maybe the Disney writers, Carl Barks or whatever, maybe they had some ideas. Maybe they heard about some of these theories and they wanted to make fun of them. I don't know. But anyway, here they are. These are the 6 thinking hats of Edward de Bono. The idea behind this setup is that each of these hats represent an approach you will naturally have towards a project. Naturally, some people will have the yellow hat, be very positive and optimistic about an idea. This is typically the guy who gets it. And then you have always somebody who's going to be negative, critical to the idea, which is usually the guy whose job he took. But the thing is, this framework also includes another very useful ways, approaches that you will naturally fall into through a course of thinking about an idea. The intuitive emotional. A lot of times, what people will do if you don't, right away you see an idea and you don't like it. I don't like this idea. You can't tell why, but you don't like it. And you try to mask the red hat as the black hat. However, the black hat is always logical, never emotional. So you try, but you try to see, well, I find these arguments, oh, all these things that are bad, and they're all stemming from the fact that right away I have this bad feeling inside. I can't put my finger on it, but Edward de Bono says, take that negativity and split it into what you feel and what you know, what you can argue for. Also here, the creative, generative hat, the green hat. There's like more ideas. You have one great idea, but that leads to another idea, and we're all just, this is the sort of a classic, where everybody's going to brainstorm. Any of you been in a brainstorm session? Yeah, brainstorm session. That's typical. Let's just get all these ideas out there, and the whole idea is just generate lots of ideas. So what do we do with them? We go out, and the boss throws them in the garbage, and he puts his ideas up and says, this is what we're going to do. I've seen it happen. I've felt it happen. But here, we're all going to do that. We're also going to be critical to all those ideas that happen that we made together here. Blue hat is process control, overview. Okay, that's keeping you, because here you go completely nuts. Making ideas that have nothing to do with the core idea. But okay, let's back on track. Let's observe, let's overview, let's okay. See, how can we do this? How can we make this? What sequence can we make it in? And the white hat is just facts and figures, completely neutral, just saying, is this fact, is this episteme, or is it belief? Is it doxa? Just the facts. And like a computer, mapping out how much money do we have, how much time do we have, what would it take realistically to make all these things happen? All of these are valid approaches, and the thing, the innovation in this model is that we're all thinking the same way at the same time. Now what that does, when you're arguing here, any of you ever argued a point against somebody and then you're starting to realize that, you know, maybe you're wrong and they're right? Does that ever happen to anyone? That was the one of you. That's not enough, guys. Oh, 2, 3. It's a couple of you. Okay, a couple of you had that experience. But it's still difficult to say, you know what, I think you're right. That's a difficult thing. It's even more difficult if you're if you're a politician, then it's hopeless. You can't. You can agree with the other guy who's arguing on the other side of the table as much as you want, but you can never say it, because then you lose. And if you lose, you're weak. And if you're weak, you lose voters. And if you lose voters, you have to go back to whatever job you jumped out of 10 years ago. And that's not going to be easy. So there's a competition in here, implicit in the argument. There's a winner. In the US, they have these debate clubs. There's a winner and a loser, and never mind. But thing is, with this system, when we're thinking creatively, if we don't get here, everyone's a loser. And by moving, everybody moving in, you change the stakes. If you're this kind of guy, it's your idea. And now it's time for us, all of us, to put on the black hat. Say, why won't it work? Well, what are the logical reasons that this idea has some flaws? And you say nothing. you look like an idiot. You lose. By changing the win and loss conditions, since I'm a game designer, that's how I think about it, how I frame it. By changing the win-loss condition, Edward de Bono's system makes you a loser, not for changing your mind, but for not being able to change your mind when that's what everybody's supposed to do. If you're this, the black hat guy who's always negative, always, no, I don't like it. It's stupid. Stupid idea. Won't work. Won't have enough. Take too much time. There's too much people involved, and I think those guys on the other side of the road down there, they already made that. When it's time to be positive, and if you say nothing, you look like an idiot. So you lose. So that's at least how I like to frame this system. And I'd like us to use this system. You may think it's silly. You may think it looks a bit weird. I'm going to show hands. Anybody who thinks it looks stupid or silly or weird? At least one. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Simon recently introduced us to his group work dynamic of employing animals as representatives of kind of personalities. And I don't know if he was based in De Bono's 6 hats, but he kind of created roles for each kind of personality, and that somehow take certain hats and they just have them during the role of working together. So that way the dynamic of the group work gets increased and gets in the good direction. I think. But
as far as I've understood that exercise, you don't change the role, right? But you have to take a role that's not necessarily the one you usually have, isn't that
That's
right?
what I was. That's what I thought in the moment. But probably by using this hats role dynamics.
So that's similar. That's similar, but it's not the same. It's role playing. Now see why is if you want to go in and understand why is this guy always negative? Why is this girl? Why does he's always so emotional and so intuitive, and it never comes any kind of argument? Well, why is that? Okay, you'll be that animal. It's always like that. You see how it is, and then you'll understand. So that's more of a different thing. But I think I'm not very familiar with the system, but yeah.
I fully agree with you. I think the strength of this way of thinking is that everybody needs to go through all the stages, which I was saying that in the beginning of the day. I think diversity is something and diverse thinking is something you need for an innovation. And the fact that everybody needs to take a different position, different starting point for the discussion, I think that is really the important thing here. And that's Simon's. I've seen the bonus hats being used the wrong way, that where you assign the hat permanently to people in the group. It doesn't work. You have that old-fashioned
get into the argument instead of getting into going through everything.
And they all have to contribute to all phases. That's how you really exhaust these various perspectives.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that specific role last semester because we were assigned the positive hat during the whole dynamic, and I was all the time constantly seeing problems and holes in the project that we were creating, and I wanted to tell them, and I couldn't. And as soon as I just opened my mouth, the whole group went against me because they told me you are supposed to not use the other hat but the yellow hat. And in that moment, I got against the wall, and somehow I couldn't even work anymore with them, and they lost the confidence or the trust with me. So it was totally a flop in that moment, and that's the problem with.
But that very often happens. I mean, the moment you're put into, you're using a hat that sort of is very against your personality, then it very often becomes. It can work for a short period of time, but you'd want to. You're going along with being positive because you know that the next step is. All the shit I've saved up, all the problems, all the misgivings of this stupid idea is coming now. But then, of course, you had some perspective through these two other hats and say, it's tempered again, you know. It's constructive. It isn't just going out and being negative for negativity's sake. Yeah, so basically, everything you need to know is here. Use the hats, focus on one hat, take on that role, switch hat, and use all hats to assess the problems fully. And everybody does the same thing. Everybody has the same color hat. Okay, so let's.
I think the one deviation I've been seeing, or maybe I don't remember in the original as well, is that you can call on the blue hat in the middle of discussion if there is something in the process that needs to be corrected. So yeah. I mean, if someone is black in the yellow face, and then you can take on the blue hat and just correct it and then go back to the process. Sure.
I think what I like to do, I don't use this so much, you know, formally. I don't have hats lying around my office and put them on. But what I like doing is to make sure that we go through all the perspectives, and then if you like, you get something creative here while you're actually over here, just write it down. We'll take another pass. It doesn't take that much time necessarily. Sometimes it can take a day, but sometimes just another 10 minutes. Let's go through any new feelings. Often, at least one of the things that is very useful is going back here. Once you've been through the whole thing, go back here. How do you feel now? I feel relieved. All those misgivings I had at the beginning, we went through them. And I saw that some of them were real, but some of them weren't. And now I feel slightly, slightly optimistic. It changed my view. So we can, because feelings are important. And what De Bono says, we try to mask our feelings often as somebody else. If you're emotional, it's often seen as something negative. You're supposed to be rational. You're supposed to think things through, not that that your instinct guides you. You're supposed to, like, especially in sort of an academic setting. But we are in an academic setting, but we are supposed to be creative. And have you ever seen anything creative, anything spectacular, anything fantastic come out without passion? Without a feeling? Without somebody saying, this interface is stupid, I'm gonna make a better one. Or saying, I love this solution. This way of clicking with the mouse or touching it, I think it's great. If you don't have any kind of passion, one way or the other, it's really hard being creative and getting something that's different. And that if you're not engaged, why would anyone else be engaged? Sure, you can hire some marketing person, and they can sort of try to artificially induce it with that secret X factor. That's seldom going to work. Unless you're also passionate about what you're making. It's hard for anyone else to get passionate about what you make. So, I'm going to say something about fertile souls with great ideas. And it's about, the first thing is one of the most important ones, is knowing the field well. When you're going out, I'm going to ask you to make software. You should know software. Anyone here who feel they don't know software, don't know anything about software? Software for you? It's good. However, you're also supposed to know a bit about health and or education. How good are you when it comes to education? Everyone here who said, you raised their hands, everyone would think, I'm really good when it comes to education. I know what education is about. I know learning theories, maybe not all of them, but several ones. Anyone can raise their hands. Yeah. Should be more. If we're making educational games or web apps or whatever, you should know something about education. That means you have to learn it. If instead you say, we're going to make something with health. Okay. Do you know, who here knows things about health? It can be, from a medical point of view, but it can also be health from a sort of a social, socioeconomical point of view. Anybody know something about that? Preferably a lot. You're not sure?
Yeah, no, I have been introduced to some kind of ideas that use health to some kind of product, as was recently at a conference in and also a guy that worked for Ubisoft that created a device that measures your rate, like your heart rate,
The heart rate, yeah.
from your breathing patterns, and then uses that as a controller into game app, and that allows people to kind of meditate, focus, or reduce stress, and also improve sleeping patterns. So, that's something.
Dang it, it's really easy to say, I don't know anything about that. It's a lot harder to say, I know something about it, but I'm willing to learn more. If you want to make a software product for people who are doctors, you have to know something about how they work. If you want to make something for educators, then you have to know something about how they work. If you want to make something for little children to learn language, you have to understand how little children learn language. And if you don't know, it's fine. You just have to learn. And you have to learn fast. To know the field, you have to use the softwares, the kind of software you're making. If you know, oh, we want to make a system where kindergarten employees can go in and track the development of each individual child. Okay, does that kind of software exist? It's just that it's not on mobile. Maybe it does. Find out. If you say, yeah, I want to make a game where people get up and move around and improve general health in the population, does any of those games exist? Yes, they do. What, how can you innovate within that space? You have to know that space in order to innovate successfully in that space. So you read, or if you're lucky, talk to the luminaries in the field. People have done these kind of things. People have made software for health. It's a huge, huge thing in Norway right now. A lot of people, the government really wants us to make software that does things for health. And games, serious games, they want, games, they're so powerful, they can do so many things, they engage so many people, we have to use them for good. I'm not sure that can be done myself. That doesn't matter. Because it's not me who's going to do it, it's you guys who are going to do it. If you think it can be done, you can talk to people who know. You can find people. And you have to explore as much as you can within the given time frame. Notice that means you have to stop at some point, right? I have this problem that when I get into researching, I'm pretty decent at researching things and learning new things, new software for making a game, or learn to use a database system, or learn to script in a new language. I'm pretty quick at that. My problem is I don't stop. So when somebody says, are you going to write that script? Yeah, but I just want to find a better way of doing it. At that point in time, you need to be able to help yourself. And you have the others in your group and say to yourself, that's enough. You know enough. Let's just make something. Making something real really fast, as I said very early in the last period. That's important. So new impulses and new perspectives, that'd be new ideas. Just had the example here with Marius, Runa, me. New perspectives, new impulses, gets new ideas. May not be a fantastic idea. Pickled cauliflower, is it the greatest idea ever? Probably not. But it came really easy. There's that. And is it a good idea for a food? Probably it's not a good idea for a game, I'll tell you that, even though I'm a game designer. So you have to see, I have some ideas. Can I use them? Maybe I can. Am I the person who's going to realize this fantastic idea? Maybe not. But we'll see. The idea is out there. And if it goes and has a life of its own, that's fine. So, to get the new impulses and the perspective, you do something you've never done. You go somewhere you've never been, and you work with people who are different from you. This is super important. If you're just sitting, a lot of companies just put all the testers in this room, and all the developers in this room, and for the project management, they have their own offices, and they just sit there. That's a super inefficient way of being creative. Maybe a very efficient way of making, you know, the next version of Word. I don't know. I never made anything like that. But it sure as hell isn't a very effective way of being creative. If you look at a company who has more focus on being creative, Valve Software, who has made a lot of games, made Half-Life 2, but they've also made the game distribution platform, Steam. There you have a desk, but your desk has wheels on it. And you move that desk to whoever you want to work with is. So if I really want to work with Marius, I'll take my desk and I push it over to him. Hi Marius, I have this idea, see? And Marius is going to say, it's probably a bad one. Put it on his black hat. And then, you want to work with us?
Yeah, sure.
That means you can get to keep your desk. If not, somebody else puts it in, right? But that's fine. You move around. Okay, it's recently read an article where it's an open office solution that's terrible. People need more privacy, not less. Yes and no. These people obviously aren't very creative. If you need to sit in your own office, then that's when you have the focus. That's when you have the deadline. That's great for that, because it can get very unfocused. But you need, in the creative process, you need to be there, moving next to the people who are different from you, who can do something you can't, who can fill you out. If you're just sitting next to the other programmers, you're all going to have the same solution or lack of solution to the same problem. And that's not efficient. And if you look at some of the methodologies, lean methodology, look at Scrum. That's a small team with everyone you need to make that particular sort of part, at least, of the software sitting together. Group of 5, 6, 4 people. That means they're going to have to be different from you, because we need graphics for that. We need a back end. We need somebody who knows something about interaction. They're going to be different from you. It's baked in to the project methodology, if you think about it. That's why it's working. So basically, get out of the echo chamber and experience that. Everybody knows what an echo chamber is?
Philosophy question?
No, echo chamber is just that. Take Facebook. When you go post something on Facebook, who sees that? Your friends. And who answers that? Who gives you some feedback on what you wrote? Your friends. And then you write back to your friends. It's an echo chamber. And you're friends with these people. Why? Because you have similar interests. You're friends with these people because, maybe they're a family. So they have similar backgrounds. Maybe you live next to them. They're people who are similar to you. And you do not want only, at least, feedback from people who are the same as you. You get out of that echo chamber. So, because that's the point. Facebook and a lot of the media we're creating today are echo chambers. It's a forum for people who don't like Jews. And so people say something that's anti-Semitic there. Big surprise. And what do the other people anti-Semitic say? They say, great, yeah, spot on, you're right. Nobody ever challenges that. And then you can go years onto that forum and breed that sort of hateful thoughts. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be something as bad as that. It can be knitting. Just knitting. But nobody's ever going to do something exciting with that knitting. If the people who are in there only knit, traditional Norwegian sweaters, everything that comes out of that forum is going to be traditional Norwegian sweaters. Because anyone who goes in there interested in knitting but really want to, knit sweaters for funky game sweaters for penguins, they're not going to find what they're looking for in there. And people in there are just going to say, oh, well, funky game sweaters for penguins? What are you talking about? That's crazy talk. They're going to go somewhere else. Make a forum about making funky game sweaters for penguins. And they're never, ever going to think about, what? That pattern for a traditional Norwegian sweater, that would look smashing on a penguin. So, just going to have a another example. Anybody right now on Norwegian national broadcast, there's a series called Sonic Highways, where the Foo Fighters are recording a record, and they go all over all these different venues, all these different recording studios to record the record. Anybody seen it? No? You should see it. It's if you're mildly interested in American music, you should see it. And American music is sort of, it's very culturally dominant. So if you listen to music, you probably listen to some American music. But I was watching it, and it's a lot about creativity there. It's a lot about mixing and matching. But I saw this on the wall of one of the bands that Dave Grohl, the frontman for Foo Fighters, interviewed. I think that what it says there, I just had to take a picture and show it to you. Don't follow in the footsteps of the masters, but seek what they saw. It's another tip to being creative. I've seen so many, I was teaching students who were making a lot of fantasy art. They're making art for games last semester. And so many of them were taking their references, if they use reference at all, from manga, anime, from Lord of the Rings drawings, from other types of fantasy. And I'm saying, these people who make these drawings, the Frank Frasettas, the Boris Vallejos, the Michael Whelans, do you think they looked at other things and copied that? No, they didn't. They went out and they experienced life, and they looked at real things and they reappropriated that. Go out and seek what they saw. That's what I said. Go out and, not in those exact words, but find your own inspirations, the things that make you want to draw, that's your fantasy, not some canned fantasy with, oh, it has to be elves and it has to be orcs or there must be dragons. Make your own things, because that's what's going to be interesting. Once you made an idea, you need to collect your idea. I think I'm going to have to speed up a little. You can write them down. You should have an idea diary. You could have Notepad and a Dropbox, just so your ideas are always with you. I have a Dropbox on all my computers, and I have it on my phone. The moment I have an idea, I find something interesting, put it in the folder, and there they are, all the ideas, pickles. And whenever I, feel like idea snack, I open it up and I take it out. I see, is this the right time for it? Is this the right market for it? Have we suddenly arrived in Poland where everybody will love my pickle idea? I don't know. I write on my hands a lot. I thought that was very childish and stupid. I was a bit ashamed of it for a long time. And then I worked with one of the best petroleum engineers in England, and he did the same thing. And so I got over that. Nothing is silly, nothing is stupid, if it works for you, that's all that matters. If it's okay, I have to stand on the table and stretch out and scratch the ceiling so that I'm in contact, with both the top and the bottom of the world. I close my eyes to think. If that works for you, that works for you, and that is what you do. If anybody else thinks that's silly, it doesn't matter, because it works for you. It's all about getting here. Those minds are in there, and you need to be here. And how do you, make your ideas come out? You draw them. Any of you creative? Any of you like drawing? Just, if you like drawing, doesn't matter if you're good or bad or whatever. Any of you like drawing? Yeah, a couple of you like drawing. That's good. Taking photos? Any of you like taking photos? Big hand. Some not so big hands, but still, okay, we're taking photos. Well, then do that. Whatever makes your idea come out, like Nicholas Francis said, whatever gives your idea the least resistance to come out so you can show it to someone. Maybe that picture isn't perfect. Don't tear off a piece. It doesn't matter. but tear off a piece, but that's $100 bill. Fine. Is your idea not worth more than $100? Then it wasn't much of an idea, was it? Tear it off. Don't be afraid to break things to show your idea. If your idea for a new product demands that it doesn't have a, it's not a tripod, it's a duopod. What does that mean? That means, sorry guys, you have to break this part off. Okay, so this is an expensive, that's my most expensive, tripod. Doesn't matter. It's going off. I'm not going to do it because it's not mine, and I don't really have a product that's called a dual pod. So I'm sorry. But anyway, don't be afraid to ruin things, to break things, to make things smudgy and nasty, or even to hurt yourselves a bit. That's fine. Your idea, if it's any good, it's worth it. Draw it, code it, film it, share it. Oh. What did you say? Should I share my ideas? But won't people steal my ideas? Any of you ever had an idea that you thought was too good to share? Yeah. All the time. I've also had ideas that I thought, that's a good idea. Like, pickle cauliflower. I'm not going to tell anybody about that. It's going to be my secret until I have my cauliflower empire sometime in the future. It isn't. It isn't really dangerous. Nobody wants to steal your idea because ideas are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and everybody thinks that everyone else's stinks. Ideas, everybody likes their own ideas a lot more. People have all their people. When I used to work in a game studio, people would come, oh, I have a great idea for a game. And then I was thinking, oh, my scale, oh, really? Is it polished? Is it, is it implemented? No, it's way down here, way down here. It isn't even a bit up there. It's just here. Okay, that's your idea. Okay, let's let's hear it. No, you don't steal it from me. Why would I steal it from you? No, because it's so good. You can make millions of it. I could give it to you, but I want 1% of what you make. 1% of what I make. That's more than I get. I don't get 1%. We're like 100 guys making this game. Even if the investor didn't want any money, there was no overhead at all, I wouldn't get it for 1%. That's just stupid. Yeah, but the idea is so fantastic. Okay. So your idea is so fantastic. What makes you think that your idea, as somebody who doesn't make games, who had no experience in game development, should be better than all of the 100 ideas that all of the 100 people that I work with to make games have every day? Why would your one idea be better than all of those? And then they're thinking, yeah, maybe not. And then a lot of people, after I make fun of them and ridicule them for a long time, which I'm unfortunately pretty good at, they tell me their idea. And then I go on my phone or I go on the internet and I show them the game. It happens very, very often. Sometimes it doesn't happen. And I'm thinking, whoa, that's actually a pretty neat idea. I haven't thought about that before. Probably possible to make within a short period of time. But you're still in a position where that particular idea, for me to champion that instead of one of my own ideas, the chances of that getting through all the critical filters of producers and investors is just as small as my own idea, and I don't have the passion for it. That guy has the passion for it. So I say, yeah, you should talk to these people. And I'll write down some names on a sheet of paper. And I say, hey, I hope you get to make your game because it sounds really cool. And that person, a couple of times, very seldom, a couple of times, what has actually happened is that person taken that piece of paper and gone and made his game or her game. And that would have, I'm not going to say it never would have happened if they didn't talk to me, but it never would have happened if they hadn't talked to anyone. sharing your ideas is good, because ideas have to be refined. And if you don't share your idea, you do not get any feedback. Your idea is going to be a perfect thing in your head all the time. Maybe if you document it, you'll find some of the flaws yourself. If you don't, still it's going to be you're not going to find the problems with your idea. And they have to be implemented, remember? And thing is, a creative person has ideas all the time. A lot of artists, a lot of comic book artists, or filmmakers, or people like Steve Jobs. Because how do you get your ideas? How do I get my ideas? They come, hundreds of them every day, and I throw away 99 and keep one. And the day after, there's a better one, and I throw the old one, and I keep that one, and keep it for a year, make something fantastic out of it. The author Neil Gaiman once said, well, actually, I'll give you this address. There's this company in, I think Surrey, he said, in Surrey, that'll, they'll give you 10 ideas every month for $100. That doesn't happen. And there's a reason for that. Because ideas are a dime a dozen, and the solid implementation is 1 in a million. Of all the ideas people have made that were potentially good, only 1 in a million will actually be something that's worthwhile, that will have an implementation that shows it off, and that is what sells an idea to people. And of course, it does happen, as Steve said. I lied. Stop there. I lied. It happens. The ideas can be stolen, but it's not very often. But the thing is, if somebody steals it, they're in the market for ideas. You've discovered a new market for ideas. You can innovate. You can be that place and serve, and get $100 out of everybody who wants ideas. To try to sell them some more. And finally, before we go and try to be creative, Jesus Christ, I'm slow. I'm going to say something. I'm going to give you some examples of why you should have room for other people's creativity. My father is a very abrasive man. And he has told me, if you're watching this later, I only love you, Dad, but still, you're a very abrasive guy. You have to face that. He's a very abrasive guy. And he has always, throughout my life, wanted to tell me what to do and how to do it. And lots of advice. He's like a wishing well, like a cornucopia of advice, none of which I ever listened to, except for one. When I was just finished my master's, I had a look. I came to his house, and he was working with a control system for process automation of, I think it was compressors, offshore compressors for oil. Very complex fit. And having just finished my education, knowing a bit about usability, but also software design, I wanted to I'd look at it and say, oh hey, shouldn't there be a dialog box here after we shut down the system? So you don't just shut off the system like right away. Yeah, sure, he said. And then I asked, oh, what about over here? Shouldn't your flow chart have one of those boxes where you can go 2 ways? So you could do either this could happen or that could happen, based on the variable up there. Yeah, sure. And I'm very proud of myself finding these flaws in a guy who's made this kind of flow charts for decades. But I said, okay, son, you're right. This should be all those things. But the thing is, you have to think about who's going to read that. Who's going to read that? I don't know, some programmer? Yeah. And that programmer is going to have a master's or a PhD from NTNU. And that programmer is probably going to be a junior, because that's when they do implement my designs, and they're going to feel very creative. They want to do something big, something new, something exciting. they're going to feel creative and want to be creative. And I have to leave room for their creativity, because if not, they're going to go ruin something else. So I stopped making very detailed concept art. I stopped making very detailed game design, leaving room for other people's creativity. So you make something, and then you allow this hole in there deliberately, so that the next person you send it to can say, oh yeah, but I have something great that would fit that hole. Isn't what you thought it would be, but there's room for that person to do something. Here are some examples. Alien. Ripley. Everybody who's seen Alien knows Ripley, the main character. Who's seen Alien? Yeah, a lot of people. It's a great, fantastic. It's a fantastic science fiction movie, and it really pushes. I think one of the things most remarkable with it, it pushes the quality of special effects, the verisimilitude of the special effects and the look of it to a whole new level, and by an order of magnitude better than something like Barbarella that came out just a couple of years before. Barbarella, everything looks like it's tinfoil and stupid, and it's fine. Maybe it's kind of the point with those games. But this, together with Star Wars, this is a different, a wholly different level. This is believable. You think it could happen, which is essential when you're making something that's a horror movie. But that role, Ripley, was written for a man. And at one point, so you know, this god has a manuscript written for a man, and then the casting person, she says, you know, I have an actor who would be great in that role. Her name is Sigourney Weaver. Sigourney Weaver? A woman. Oh, okay. So they go through the script. I think it's Chris O'Bannon and Cobb, I think, who wrote it. They go through the script and they think, what do we have to change? How many passages do we have to change if this character was supposed to be, if it's a woman instead? Do you have any idea how many lines they changed? Any guesses?
No, not at all.
Hmm?
No lines at all.
No lines at all. That's correct. They didn't change anything. What's interesting is that the strong woman that then emerges in the 80s, the strong female lead character, is a man. I don't know what that says, but probably interesting. Another thing is sort of the look of the film. These are concepts are made by O'Bannon and Cobb. I mean, they're not just writing the script, they're also making concept art. And they're pretty good. You can, I mean, for those of you who can see it, these are pretty decent concept art. That weird monster up there, that's the alien, and then there's the derelict, where they find the eggs on the bottom there. But then one of the guys on the set said, you know what, this artist, I think, would be perfect to make it a bit sort of more edgy, more different. He's a Swiss guy called Giga, and he's got these biomechanoids. They're like half machine, half man. Okay, let's have a look. And these were and that's on top. There's the original drawing that inspired the alien, and down there's just the final derelict. Concepts by Giga, and that look, that alien, weird sort of totally strange looking thing, that is the defining look of the Alien series, the Alien franchise, and it has been successful to this day. Just that image of that monster on top there still sells millions just by itself. But when it's tied to a strong cast with an innovative use of a female lead, it becomes a very, very strong IP indeed. Terminator, Cameron is also one of those creatives who does a lot of things. That's one of his own drawings, concept drawings, of the Terminator. If you can see the face there, that's not the one we usually think of when we see the Terminator, because that's Lance Henriksen. Cameron wrote the role as the Terminator for his friend Lance Henriksen, who some of you may know from Millennium, trilogy. It's not a trilogy, but Millennium, the TV series. He also has a role in Terminator as one of the cops who gets shot after the Terminator says, "I'll be back." Another interesting story there, so I'm not going to tell you. But anyway, that's what he is. And the studio picks it up, and they say, "We want this movie to be made." Cameron, of course, is ecstatic. And then they say, "We want it as a vehicle for this new actor, Arnold Schwarzenegger." And I go, "What?" "Yes, it's we want him to be Kyle Reese, the man from the future who saves Sarah Connor from the evil Terminator." "Oh, okay." And he was thinking, that's a role has a lot of lines. And who's seen Terminator? Again, a bit more. That's good. There's this line with a lot of exposition. It's a genius scene where they're driving, and the Terminator is following Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor, and Kyle Reese just gives the whole backstory. Terminators, they're, living tissue over metal. He's a machine, and will never stop until it kills you. Long exposition. Can you imagine if that was sitting around a table, maybe smoking a cigarette? It will never stop until it kills you. And it goes on for 10 minutes. It doesn't work. And Cameron's saying, is he going to deliver those lines? Is that going to work? "Oh, I came for the future. I came to save you." I'm not sure. But okay, let's have a meeting with the guy, because he wants this movie to be made. So Arnold Schwarzenegger comes in, and you can say a lot of things about that guy, but he has some. He knows himself. He flips through the script. I'm not sure, but I think at that point he hadn't even read the script. And Cameron's like going, "Ugh." And he's flipping through the script, and he says, "I'll do it. I'll be in the movie. But I want to be the Terminator." He knows. And of course, he has to be the Terminator. No lines, almost. The lines he has, "I'll be back." And is it, "Fuck you, asshole." They're iconic now. Imagine would it be iconic if he had that exposition? Of course it wouldn't be. But so you leave room for somebody else to go in and do what they're good at. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is good at being beefcake and scaring the shit out of people. Fantastic. I want to be the Terminator. And I mean, that's his iconic role. Even when he's a governor of California, they call him the Governator. Right? That sticks with him. And that's not a role somebody wrote for him. That's a role he partially at least invented for himself. Game like Diablo was supposed to be turn-based, like in the old Fallout games. Okay, you have these action points, and you move your character, and you click a couple of times to attack, and then it's the NPC's turn. But then the programmer who made it said that, I put all this, this stacking in here. We could actually, just run through it instead of requiring a click from the player. Every time you could just run, and when the player clicks, he strikes. How about that? No, that would ruin the whole game. That would take the whole feeling of it. People who play this kind of game, they want to be methodical and think through all of their choices and make the optimal choice. And the programmer, when everybody else is left for the evening, he said, "You know what? I'm going to do it anyway." And he does. And he puts it on a timer. So all the phases of combat, moving, hitting, regenerating health, regenerating mana, instead of being, prompted by a clicking through and going there, he said, it goes. So let's go over here, and you find it's a huge bugbear, you kill it, and you run on. And when they come back, when the game designers come back the next morning and they look at it, it's obvious. This is what the game should be. This is what it is. And that is why I say making a prototype, making your idea realized, implemented, polished even, because then there's no question. Everybody can see it's a good idea. when we're just talking about it, when it's just in your head, you know. Gears of War also has a fine piece of creativity. Put a chainsaw on the end.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all it needs to be groundbreaking. It's, you know, it's Space Marines in space killing aliens. It sounds a bit bland. Put a chainsaw on the end. That's all Cliff Blazinski needed. I got more lucky accidents that you can have a look at. It's a long. Well, I uploaded the slides, so have a look at it.
Do you know about Alejandro Jodorowsky?
Jodorowsky, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
No, yes, because you were mentioning the others, but then went out from the ideas, or were influenced by his ideas. So
Oh yeah, definitely. So, but I mean, he's not so well. It's harder to point the thing he made this. These are more mainstream.
yeah, no,
At least for my generation. I should probably update it with some Pokemons and things. My Little Ponies. I don't know. What are you kids into these days? Okay, I'm dating myself. I'll shut up.
Minecraft.
Minecraft.
No,
Yeah.
actually, it's not. Most of these people aren't Minecraft players. I asked in the OT room like how many played Minecraft, and none of them had. Yeah, but I asked that in 5 years' time, all of them will. So yeah, it's a wave coming. It's the Minecraft.
It's a
wave.
Minecraft play.
Yeah.
So they'll be pitching, but first let's try to be creative. 1 hour. It's a bit late. You know what? Let's try to be turbo creative. Let's just try to get some ideas down. Okay? Will you show us to the room with the hats?
Right. Yes. Amen.
Everybody, come up, grab some air on your way. There's no time. I mean, I've been super slow, and you guys, we're doing this recording. You don't get to come. Yeah. You guys, be creative. Okay, use your hats. I'll put the slide with the hats up, and you can do the same.
No, we wouldn't be coming back here. No, we'll go to game 11. I think we aimed at the game 11.
Yeah.
So grab your stuff. Yeah.
Are we not coming back?
No, it's not planned.